Who ready? Who? We ready? Who? 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 Who ready? We ready? Who ready?
Welcome everyone to a great episode here. We're going to talk about the Dior Coons case, and I would like to introduce you guys again, Mr. Towton Art.
Thank you, David. Glad to be back, man. Hopefully we got the internet problem figured out from last time.
I know that was pretty terrible. By the way, ladies, if you want to send up a heart for old Towton just to give him some love, you can do that. You know, I just like the thumbs up. It doesn't matter to me. But anyway, all right. So tonight we are going to talk about the Dior Coons case, and I know you're new to it, Towton. I know that there's some things that you're unfamiliar with, but we're going to start at the beginning again. I'm going to play a few videos, and then we're going to talk about them. Understand, people, that these videos are news generated, and they push to a interesting flavor kind of grip to it, so you will stay tuned for the next one and carry on. You can watch these on YouTube. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it gives a fairly good following of what's going on, but it doesn't do it fair justice of everything. I've interviewed everybody that's within this campground, and I can tell you that there's other PIs that did not. And I think by giving their decision and their opinion is wrong to do so early. So I see Towton doesn't like to wear the Mickey Mouse headphones. That's okay. That's okay. He doesn't want to be a team player. So is there anything you want to say before we get started? Because I'm going to play this first video and then we'll go on into some details.
No, I'm kind of excited about this video. I've got a little glimpse of it when you showed it to me. So I think it kind of clarifies a lot, but then it has a lot of unanswered questions that hopefully when we're done watching it, we can sort of answer a few of these questions and kind of give our opinion on that.
Well, I'm going to write down some notes while we're watching it because I haven't been able to. You know, I'm a last-minute type of person. So I'm going to turn the mics off and we're all going to watch the video.
He is the happiest kid. Like, always had Hot Wheels. Always making people laugh, like goofing around, doing silly faces. He was at that fun age where he was like starting to do more, and we had taught him how to pedal on his little trike. Mama. He never called me mom. He never called me mommy or mom, you know, nothing like that. It was always mama. I was with him every second of the day, and that kid was my best friend. I would have given anything to be, you know, in his place or for this whole situation not to happen, and I hold myself responsible.
What's the address of your emergency?
My 2-year-old son, we can't find him. We were camping at, and we can't find him at all.
I did not get an attorney because I'm a guilty man. I got an attorney because I'm tired of being accused of something I would never do.
Feel a little bit bad about it. Wish it hadn't happened. Better shut up before I get in trouble here.
Some people are always going to be pointing a finger at each other. That's always going to probably be that way until this case is solved.
Little man's gone. He's missing. We can't find him.
On July 10th, 2015, a 2-year-old vanished. Everything else about that day, well, it depends who you ask. Our investigation began with the family's claim that Dior disappeared during a family camping trip. How he went missing? that gets complicated. His disappearance has an entire community asking, what happened to Dior?
Mystery. Everyone wants to know what happened to that little boy. Is he still alive?
For those of you who don't know, I am his father, Colonel Dior Koontz. We really appreciate the support, the help, the communities that have come together for us. We will find him. One way or another, we will find him, no matter what it takes.
Everyone's heart breaks when they hear that a child's gone missing, and especially up at a campsite, because camping here in Idaho is so popular. A lot of people know how easily it could happen up at a campground for a little boy to wander off.
We went to the campsite where Dior vanished. That's our truck pulling in near the spot where the family was on vacation back in 2015. We came here with 3 theories given to us by the sheriff himself. The first theory is that there was an animal attack. The second is abduction. The third theory? Well, we'll get to that. Let's start with the possibility of animal attack.
Yeah, the possibility of wild animal, him just wandering off and us not finding him.
For big game, we have elk, moose, deer, and antelope. And then you also have, like your predator species, which are your bears, your lions.
Do you have to warn people?
No, not typically. The interaction hasn't been an issue between the people and the animals.
We wanted to know about any physical evidence that might have been found here. A local TV station, KTVB, gave us this video from the original search. More than 100 volunteers looked, and they didn't find any sign of a wild animal. Nothing left behind, no shredded clothing, no blood, nothing. It's like the 2-year-old wasn't even at the camp, which brings us to the second theory, abduction.
There is that possibility of an abduction.
We asked the forest ranger how many roads lead in and out of Timber Creek Campground. We wanted to know what routes an abductor would have taken. This is the only one. It stretches for 7 miles, the only way out.
It's about an hour and a half from your nearest big city, Idaho Falls, or somewhere that has some, like a Target or a Walmart or some kind of, a major amenity. So, if you're coming up to camp here, you're probably not going to get a lot of interaction with other folks.
As far as somebody driving in here and getting him, with 4 people up there, I don't think somebody could have drove in without you hearing a car and turning around and looking to see who it is. I just don't think it's possible.
There's always a possibility it's some type of a nature take, and then there is that possibility of an abduction. You can't close the door on any of those things at this point.
We wondered if maybe someone could have just walked off with Dior. 4 people were at the campsite when he vanished. Dior's mother, father, great-grandfather, and his friend, Isaac. None of them say they heard a getaway car or saw any dangerous animals. They are the third theory.
There was 4 people in the camp. 1 or more of them could have had participated in it.
This is where things change. On November 23rd, 2015, 4 months after Dior disappeared, the family began working with a private investigator to help locate the child. He asked them all questions on camera in separate rooms. When the investigators handed over 10 hours of video to us, we knew we were onto something. When we played the video, we learned their stories aren't exactly the same.
You don't want to get things stirred up too much, so you find out what's going on. You know that.
My mind tells me, at first my mind told me at that time, this killed my son, this had something to do with it.
I don't care if it's my grandpa that's guilty. I don't care. I just want my son back.
With no real answers about what happened to Dior, this family is about to turn on each other.
Well, Tout, I think that's kind of interesting. I think I turned my speaker down here. There we go. I think that's kind of interesting how they set this up, the news media. This is why I'm showing this. Now, I did notice a message that popped up. Now, understand this Callie Ann Pearson girl. Okay. I've talked to her several times, but she leans towards the parents doing it. And I've talked to her, but she's watching the episodes tonight. This will show you how this is live. This is not recorded, pre-recorded or anything. But I'm going to let you guys in on something here. Yes, this pretty much puts a spotlight on the parents. But what I want you to do is use common sense and look at it and know and see that. That's why Towton and I are here to discuss this, so you can see common sense wise, no stories really change. We're trying to show you what everybody's depicted this as, news media and so forth, so on, and what we saw or what we see and what I did as an investigator. So, they talk about animal.
Yes.
And then they talk about abduction.
Right. And then family.
And then that's the strange thing. You see how the news media puts it, family involvement. Well, they're not all family. You got Isaac.
True. You got the mystery person.
Why does everybody eliminate Isaac?
Yeah.
Is it so hard to see that Isaac is the oddball out here?
Now, did Isaac, as we can see right there, we see the videos of Bob, the mom, and the father, right, with the private investigator. Where's the video of Isaac?
There is none.
So there was no video of Isaac, the same as 10 hours of videoing?
No, there's actually video that the news media did. Idaho News, East Idaho News did some interviews, and in one of these episodes they do an interview, and we're gonna really dig down deep into some of that. But then I'm gonna talk about the interview I did with Isaac.
Okay,
a little bit different.
Yeah,
and then we'll let everybody have their own opinion, but I can tell you, common sense tells you that these videos are saying, putting more mystery on the parents, more guiltiness on the parents. And people are probably saying, well, David, why are you doing that? Well, it makes my job harder, right? Well, that's fine. I don't mind something being hard and overcoming it, because adversity is something you have to overcome in order to be better. So that's why I don't mind heading it face on. And I might offend some people tonight. I might make some bad comments because I'm a passionate person about this stuff.
Well,
so,
I think everybody rushes to judge the parents no matter what.
Yeah.
That's about, if a husband and a wife and the wife goes missing or the wife is murdered, we always jump to the conclusion that it could have been the husband or the wife, right?
Right.
And I think I could see how, when there's only 4 people involved in this case, in an isolated area, you know what I mean? We're not at a local campground that has hundreds of people, right? We're way back in the woods. So I can see how they can jump to the mother and the father without a doubt. But I think we definitely need to look at some of the other 2 possibilities, which is obviously Bob and then Isaac. Unfortunately, Bob, is no longer with us. So, that's almost a dead lead at this time.
Well, I can come back to that because I did interview Bob.
Okay, good.
And with what I saw on some of these videos, pay attention to Bob. Pay attention to Jessica. Pay attention to, Vernal. I mean, pay attention to all these people. Now, I'm going to give some information out at the end of this, because we're going to try and make this the podcast for Dior before we go on our trip, before we go up there. We try and find him. I'm pretty confident we will. It's and I'll get into more of that later. But anyway, somebody says, I can't hear it at all. David, can you check and see what's up with the audio? Well, the audio's checking pretty good. I don't know.
Is anybody else out there? Can they hear us? Just make a quick comment. Let us know.
Okay. Okay. Well, everybody else can hear us. I mean, you might have to turn up your volume on your phone. So I'm going to play. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to the next video?
I think we're good. We've talked about the animal, right?
Okay.
Right. I mean, we got to rule that out. I think everybody's ruled that thing out. That's just a moot point at this. It's the abduction. They ruled that out. I mean, it's just too far down a dirt path or dirt road. So we really, and I agree with a lot of people, it's family. It's
Well, I wouldn't say family. I'd say
one of the four.
One of the four.
Yes, one of the four was the only four there.
Right.
Right? I mean, so.
Okay. Well, I'll get on with part 2.
We can't find him.
This is one of the last photos taken of 2-year-old Dior Koontz.
He loved camping. He loved being outside. He wanted to explore.
We're trying to unravel a mystery. Dior's mother claims her son vanished during a family camping trip. But to where? To get answers, we went to a reporter who's covered the story for more than 2 years.
Obviously, when news first broke that this little boy went missing, I think it makes everyone kind of go home and hold their kids a little tighter, hug them a little closer. So you have a community that wants to find this little boy.
Okay, so this is where we are in the search to find him. Police have 3 theories about what happened to Dior. The first, animal attack. The second, Dior could have been abducted. The third, Dior's own family could be involved.
It's a 2-year-old. 2-year-olds just don't moonbeam up somewhere. The boogeyman didn't come get this child.
That's Philip Klein. He's a private investigator that worked with the Koontz family. He was paid to search for answers about what really happened to Dior Koontz. We interviewed him, hoping that he could help us get beyond the sheriff's 3 theories.
Our job is to investigate, put evidence together, bring it to law enforcement. Here's where we are, and here's where we think the child is.
Klein is about to share something with us. 5 months after Dior disappeared, he interviewed the people who were at camp when Dior vanished. Dior's mother, father, great-grandfather, and his friend, Isaac. The Lemhi sheriff told us that he's seen that interview video as part of the investigation, but that's all he'd say about that. We should tell you up front that the investigator working with the family, Philip Klein, thinks someone isn't telling the truth.
I don't remember what I said to him. The last thing that I said to my son, when my grandpa said he would watch him, I was all for it. I was excited. And that kills me because it was my idea. Like, oh, yeah, I want to go fishing. Like, every day and every night going to sleep and knowing another day is going by and we still have no idea. We don't know if he's alive okay out there somewhere with somebody. As much as I've searched that area, as much as our family has searched that area, to come up with absolutely not one shred of anything, it wasn't an animal at all. It was a different kind of animal.
This is the campground where Dior vanished.
I remember asking my grandpa, "Are you sure you're okay with him?" And he said, "Yeah, he's fine. He wants candy." And I said, "Okay."
A lot of families, a lot of parents have been in that similar situation that Jessica claimed to be in. Oh, we thought Dior was with Grandpa. Grandpa thought Dior was with us. And that's happened before to a lot of parents.
He said, "Well, he was sitting right by that tree right there. I couldn't tell if he was playing in the dirt or if he was playing with his shoe." He couldn't remember if he had dozed off or lost track of time.
Okay, so this is where their stories start to contradict. Remember, Bob and Jessica are family. He's her grandfather. During the interviews, they explain how Dior vanished very differently.
We all probably got a different story. So I don't know what happened. That's all there is to it.
Do they ask you to watch Little Dior?
That's what I hear.
Okay, that's what you hear?
That's what I hear.
That's what you hear from them say?
That's what I hear. I didn't know whether I heard or they said that.
Okay.
This is one of the key differences in their stories. Jessica says that she asked her grandfather, Bob, to watch Dior, but Bob won't confirm that Jessica asked him that.
I don't remember that, but I was watching him anyway, you know? They took off.
What do you think happened to your grandson?
I don't know what happened to him. for sure, else I would let you know.
What's your guess?
What does your gut tell you? What I mean,
Huh?
we all have a gut. What does your gut tell you?
I don't really know.
You probably noticed Bob's oxygen tube. He's not well. Jessica worked as her grandfather's caretaker. It's not clear whether she volunteered or got paid to help, but both she and Dior's father say that taking care of her grandfather, Bob, is why the family went on this trip in the first place.
Jessica's not known to keep a job long. And the fact that she'd had this one for 6 months was because of Bob and she enjoyed taking care of him. Do I think Jessica did anything? No, because she was there with me. I believe Bob knows more than what he's telling. It is my fault for allowing Bob to watch my child, but I will never forgive Bob for letting my son get out of sight. I will never forgive him.
Do you trust Jessica 100%?
When it comes to my son, I did. When it comes to, like, any life decision, no. The only thing that I ever thought was maybe she knew something about Bob and was worried about Bob spending what life he's got left in prison, and that was eating at her.
You seem to be close to Jessica.
Yeah.
But were you like affectionate with the baby, or?
No, I don't pick kids up and stuff like that.
Okay.
Give them the kisses like the women? No, sir.
Why would you and your husband leave that little boy up there with a guy that's on oxygen? Just because you've done it before?
Because he was tired, and I knew that he wanted to hang out with Grandpa.
My first thought was to get to the meat of the matter. We wanted to find out as much about the dynamic.
Throughout these interviews, they all began blaming Isaac. He's the friend of Grandpa's who joined the family on the camping trip.
I just talked to my mom about, like, okay, is there something that you're worried about with Grandpa specifically, or what? And she just said, I just don't know this guy, Isaac.
Never heard reputation-wise or anything?
Nope. Just what my grandpa had said to me about him, like, oh, he's kind of weird, or he's kind of odd is his exact wording. He's kind of odd, but he's a good guy.
Why did you invite Isaac up to this particular camping trip?
Oh, I don't really know why. He just goes along sometimes, that's what it is.
Okay.
We haven't found any video of Isaac's interview, so we went to track him down ourselves. Next, Isaac's side, after we ask what happened at the campsite.
I'm not sure if I should release a whole lot of information.
What do you think about that there, Ty?
I tell you what, man, Isaac is. I'd like to see an interview with him, right?
You're
but
going
we don't have
to.
it. I mean,
yeah, you're going to. The news media did one.
Yeah.
And I can just tell you, when I interviewed him, I got a lot more information than other people realize, and how much I wound up getting from him. But what I want to do is go back and talk about Jessica told grandfather, talked about the grandpa, that baby Dior wanted to stay with grandpa because he had candy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I hear all these people talking about, well, Vernal ran over him. It's an accident, whatever. It's just, right. He was working on his truck and accidentally run over the kid. Well, who's to say the parents didn't walk off, like they said? Isaac left, turned around, come back to grandpa, and the child got choked on a piece of candy. And that was the accident.
I mean, everything's up in the air right now. There's no answers.
There is none.
Right.
Except for after we get done with these videos, there'll be more answers than questions. So grandpa gets up there and he's talking to him. He says some crazy off the wall things like, when's the funeral, and crazy stuff that just doesn't even make sense. But it will at the end of the show. But anyway, he says, they say they asked me.
Right.
But he doesn't remember. That's what he hears. That Jessica and Vernal are saying that they asked him to watch baby Dior.
And then 2 minutes later, he talks about him watching him. He admits that he was watching baby Dior.
Well, the big question is, when Isaac turned around, when the parents were going off to look at the fishing hole, and Isaac went with them, and Isaac turned around, Isaac didn't go all the way up to the top with them. They went about midway, 3/4 of the way. That's when they crossed over the creek. But Isaac didn't go. Isaac turned around and went back. Good point for Vernal. When is the last time you saw my son?
Right.
Where's my son? Did you see my son?
Yeah.
And Vernal's like, Isaac's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to have seen him.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not going to attack that little kid, take him like an animal or an abduction, and Isaac not see it.
Right.
Come on. So there's where I'm going to is more, you got Isaac, you got Grandpa, you got the little man. I've narrowed it already down to 3, right?
Okay.
It's not that easy because you still got to look at Mom and Dad.
Yes.
And what they did throughout the whole time. So what did you think about the video? Is it telling? Is there something?
It's leading to a lot of unanswered questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I hate to say I keep going back to Isaac, but I want to know more about Isaac. I mean, I hate to say it that way. I think we see a lot with the parents because they're on the news station. They did the interviews with the previous private investigator. We get a good feel for where their mental state was and sort of what they were doing. We have the unknown of what Isaac was doing. Right. And when he says, I don't know when I've seen the kid, but come on, you could be like, hey, I seen him 10 minutes ago down where with Bob. Right. I mean, you had to see him. He was there. He admitted that he was there.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
So now there's a big void here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if Isaac turns around and goes back towards Grandpa.
Yeah.
Well, where'd you see him at?
Yeah.
You had to have. You returned back
right
to that spot.
Yeah.
So. Common sense, people. I'm just saying, really common sense. Just watch the videos. Don't read into what the reporters are saying or how the juicy story is trying to lead up or push you in a direction. Use your common sense. That should end any kind of conversation or doubt.
Well, and that's the thing. Remember at the beginning of this video, they were talking about the theories and the possible causes, right? And they said animal. And then they said abduction. And last thing they said family, right? They're leading you to family.
Right.
But Isaac isn't family, right?
Exactly.
So right there, when I saw that, I was like, whoa. You're already leading everybody to think family mentally in their head right now. And honestly, you left out a big key component, which is Isaac.
Right.
Right? Because the other 3 were part of the family, but Isaac is not. So why would you say abduction, family? At the beginning of this story, because again, it makes for a little bit better, you know what I mean? News story, but that's a complete lie.
I don't know if I've played the third part yet. I think it's in the third part, but Isaac talks about, and I'm fixing to play the third part. Isaac talks about that him and Bob were planning this trip for a week, but yet Vernal finds out last minute and Jessica finds out last minute.
Like the day before.
So there's a plan to go camping with Isaac and Bob. Out of Isaac's mouth, he says they planned this trip. So who's the ones that didn't know was Jessica and Vernal until the last minute. Okay, so that's interesting to keep in mind now. And that comes from Isaac's mouth, since everybody wants to believe Isaac, like the private investigator number 2, the media want to believe what Isaac's saying, then you should believe that they planned this trip a week prior to.
Yeah, and then the parents were brought in last minute.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's not Isaac being brought in last minute.
Mm-mm.
It's the parents being brought in last minute.
Right.
So did they have time to plan a murder and getting rid of a kid and all this stuff? And Jesus, common sense. But anyway, we'll play the next part.
We can't find them.
Some people are always going to be pointing a finger at each other in this. This is how it's going to be. And it won't matter what I say, it's just how it is.
We went to Idaho Falls to find Isaac. He lives here. In fact, everyone at that family campsite when Dior disappeared is from Idaho Falls. Vernal, Dior's dad, and Jessica, plus her grandpa Bob. But Isaac Reinwand didn't quite fit in with the rest. He's the only camper who isn't family, and he hadn't met Dior's parents until that trip. We found Isaac outside his house.
Some people thought it was strange that it was a family trip and you were there.
Right. I know. I don't know. Bob invited me, so I went. I thought it was kind of strange a little bit to myself, but we'd kind of been planning it for, about a week. Just wanted to get up there and get out of the town. Bob wanted to show me a couple of spots where he used to go up when he was a kid. So that's what we did.
Bob is Jessica's granddad, Dior's great-grandfather. Bob used to live in Isaac's neighborhood.
Yeah, he'd hired me to weed out his garden and stuff like that.
Yeah, became friends.
And then we just became friends, and we lived right next to each other for, a little over 5 years. So I've been with Bob Walton, I think his last name is Walton, for a long time.
We checked. Walton really is Bob's last name. It was kind of surprising to hear Isaac question that when they've been friends for 5 years. We wondered, how well do they even know one another? Bob says a few months after that camping trip, they stopped being friends. What we really wanted to know is, why did Bob invite Isaac to go with them on the trip in the first place? This was his answer.
Yeah, he did work for me. We went fishing, and when you get so old and you run around the hills, you gotta have somebody there in case you keel over.
Remember, Jessica says she was on this trip as Bob's caretaker. Dior's father, Vernal, and Isaac were the others at the campsite when the 2-year-old disappeared. The family all called out Isaac in these recordings. That got the private investigator asking questions.
From day one, Jessica and Vernal kept trying to steer us as investigators to Isaac. Well, Isaac's a weirdo. Isaac, does this. Isaac does that.
I never really got a feel for him, like his personality. He really didn't talk to us. Really kind of was just odd.
They keep bringing up Isaac, and he's creepy, and he's weird, and he's odd.
I said, when you came walking up to camp, did you see my son? Did you cross paths? The response I got pissed me off. Because he said, and I quote, I don't know. I looked at him and I said, when is the last time you seen my son? And again, I got, I don't know. And I said, you better start knowing something real fast.
I'd just rather put it behind me, but people keep coming to me, bringing it up, and it's just kind of getting annoying. I don't really want to even talk about it anymore. I was just a friend of the family. I was up there, and next thing you know, he's gone. I'm not sure if I should release a whole lot of information, so I just said that all I can basically say is that he was up there with us. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Why aren't you supposed to release information? Who told you not to talk about it?
They said didn't really go into detail. The feds and the Bonneville County Sheriff here.
So the feds and the sheriff told him not to talk, but he chose to speak to us on camera about Dior. Our investigation took a turn when we found out what the family said about Isaac.
Do you trust Isaac?
But for what? I mean,
Would you trust him to spend the night in your house?
No.
Would you trust him to watch your grandson?
No.
Do you trust him to not steal your money?
No.
Why are you friends with him? If you don't trust him, why would you?
Well, you know what? That's a hell of a question.
You're right.
I had my eye on what was going on all the time. And that's the way it is.
In the middle of Jessica's interview, she starts telling a story about Isaac and a shovel. Listen to this.
When they picked the shovel up out of the ground, because it looked like it had been used recently, like it was kind of muddy, and at the very tip of it there was a blonde hair that was like the same color as Little Man's. When the cops asked Isaac about it. They took him away from the campground, asked him questions, and he came back and he ran his hands up and down the shovel. And I'm like, if somebody asked me about this shovel that might be involved with something, why would you, I wouldn't go rub my hands all over it. Like, I wouldn't even want to be near that. And the hair, when the guy picked up the shovel, I went to go grab it, and the wind blew and blew it right off the shovel. And so we lost that.
So a lost piece of hair? Is that really the only trace of Dior found at the campsite? Now, there's no way to know. Dior's been missing for more than 2 years, and since day one, the 2-year-old's mom and dad considered Isaac a suspect. The private investigators hired by the family aren't so sure about that.
4 times he's been interviewed by us. Isaac's story has never changed.
I think the only people that know what happened on that mountain, in my mind, is Grandpa, Vernal, and Jessica. I really don't think Isaac knows.
So the private investigators seem to think Isaac doesn't know what happened. But then comes a new lead in our investigation. Jessica reveals a mystery man who may be to blame. Could Dior have been abducted after all?
I would look over and he would be staring at little man. No expression on his face.
Next, suspects are named in the case.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your son?
No.
What do you think there, buddy?
Well, the one thing I kind of grasped on, and I'm still going back to Isaac and the interviews and stuff like that. So that private investigator, Philip Klein, he just said he interviewed him 4 times, just then. So why is it not on this show? I mean, where he just said,
okay,
he'd been interviewed by us by 4 times.
Now,
so where's it at?
I want people to know out there. I didn't put him up to this. I wanted him to see this fresh. I showed in the beginning video of what we were going to start with. But I haven't told him. I said, keep an open mind. Listen to what you're seeing. Talon's pretty smart when it comes to investigating or watching things happen or listening to things happen. He's watched me over the years do all kinds of crazy things. But I wanted Talon's fresh eyes to look at this non-biased. I mean, he could say it's the parents. I don't care. You got to prove to me it's the parents. Yeah. But it's so interesting you say that because there's the common sense again. He states, we interviewed Isaac 4 times. No, you didn't. You didn't interview him at all. And the reason why I know, 1, Isaac's told me so. Number 2, law enforcement has no recordings of that. They got all the other ones, but they don't have this one. And yet, no news media, not even Klein, has brought out any videos of Isaac. Now, I watched an interview. This is funny. Here's how I know what else. Philip Klein never interviewed Isaac, and actually, East Idaho News presented them with their questioning of Isaac to Philip Klein. So it's Philip Klein sitting there, his daughter sitting there, another investigator sitting there, all in front of this screen watching. And what do? They don't watch the video. Like normally I would watch a video first and then I'd want to go back on a second time and then start writing notes. Okay. No, they don't do that. They're looking at the screen, and when he starts talking, all of a sudden you see him go down and start writing. That's piss poor investigating to me. When I talk to somebody, I want to watch them. I want to see what's going on with them when I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
Then I'll come back and I'll do the same interview, but this time I write notes because you're missing a whole lot of information, a whole lot of stuff. So there's a lie in itself. You have an investigator that's lying. All right. If you know anything about law enforcement, when I went through criminology, you learn. Law enforcement, if you're a law enforcement officer and you get on the stand and you lie and you get caught, guess what? You're no good ever again as a law enforcement officer. You've committed perjury on the stand. Same thing with an investigator. When you start doing things for self-benefit, and And I have noticed some of these interesting comments where some gentleman is saying that I'm using all this for my self-entertainment or whatever, or self-use or whatever. At the end of the show, I'll prove to you, this show is not about that. This show's about Dior. This show is to show people, hey, I'm trying to right a wrong from what two private investigators have done. And the reason why I have to right the wrong, you'll see at the end of the show, because I'm going to give actual information that counteracts all this other stuff. So I'm getting off topic. Anyway, I don't want to do that. So when they say, the news media here says what the family said about Isaac, they say, now let's see what the family says about Isaac.
Right.
Well, they don't do that. They go straight to Bob, who is the senior family member, and Bob says that he didn't trust Isaac, trust him in his house, whatever.
Right, with his money, he didn't even trust him at all.
No, didn't trust him at all.
Yeah, that was eye-opening right there.
And I think he's confused too. And I'm thinking, does he even know what he's being asked? Does he even know what it entails? So then he contradicts everything. If Bob says, I kept an eye on what was going on the whole time.
Right, yes.
What the hell were you talking about, Bob? I'm sorry, you're in the grave now, and I can't talk to you, but I did talk to you before you passed on. So, I know Bob had to have been alert. Now, if Bob was just saying that just to make a comment, okay, fine. But there's nowhere in the thing he says he looked away for a few minutes, and the next thing you know, he's gone.
Right.
No, I don't buy that. I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper. So what else do you have?
The other thing is with the Philip Klein, I don't know if it was in this video or another one we've seen. You know, he sort of have just judged the parents, right? And we can kind of see he's clearly stating that the parents are involved or did it. But he has yet to produce any evidence from what I have seen. Now, can you enlighten on that since you've been in it longer?
Yeah.
Did Philip Klein actually release, other than these videos, which we're missing a big video, which is Isaac, right? So I already kind of...
That doesn't exist.
I got to quit harping on Isaac. I'm sorry. But I can only judge from what I'm seeing, which is this video and some other ones, but I can clearly see Bob, you know what I mean, Jessica and Vernal. I can clearly see them. I can watch that, but I cannot watch Isaac other than when they came to his house and he's holding his bicycle and stuff like that. That's all I'm getting from him. But where is this evidence that, you know what I mean, that Klein has said or whatever to produce?
I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about when Jessica supposedly told his firm, his investigators, that she knows where the body is.
Right. Yeah. So where is it? There's a lot of interviews. So obviously you would think that's in an interview somewhere.
It's not.
But it's not.
It's not.
So it's just basically hearsay. He's just saying it.
Well, I can just tell you this, and Philip Klein would know this, that if you took a recording that you had of Jessica saying she knew where the body was, and you took it to law enforcement and you produced it as evidence, and they found out that you have twerked and tweaked that audio, not video, audio, you're in some big trouble. That's where it comes into play.
Yeah.
Now, okay, Philip Klein wants to be a rodeo clown, show horse, whatever you want to call him. That's fine. I'm not that type of person. I want people just to see what truly is out here and understand you can still believe the parents did it. I can prove otherwise. Right. I can show otherwise, common sense wise, why it doesn't even fit.
Yeah. And I think one of the things where Philip, one of the biggest things he said, he said, someone isn't telling the truth. Well, damn, dude, we don't have to be a genius to come up with that idea. I was sitting here like, that's all you can come up with? We have no evidence. We're missing a major video, and you come up with someone isn't telling the truth. Well, man, you're a genius.
Well, nobody fell for his bullshit. He told him, now look, this is in another in this same meeting, but nobody's seen this unless they went through and watched all the videos. There was 2 gentlemen that made this video that went over the timeline. He actually tried to present them and make them think it's an accident. Hey, you do this, there's $250 fine. You're going to get probation for 10 years. Sounds like something David Marshburn would have done way back in the day. It would have been. I'd have done some bullshit like that. But I'm not going to do that now because I know better, because now I got a degree that says, hey, don't do that. I mean, you don't do, I mean, I can do it by law, legally, but I'm not supposed to. So he does that, but then he pulls off this thing where, you remember back in the 80s when we were little kids, and if you knew karate, you badass. You're Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
you know, the thing of thinking about that. Well, he tells them this story about he's got friends in Quantico. He refers to the FBI as Quantico. News alert, Philip Klein. There's FBI agents all over the United States, and there's offices set up all over the United States. So, man, he used that line on a law enforcement officer too.
Right.
And that law enforcement officer was talking to me and was laughing about it, saying, dude, does this guy really think he's that connected? And also, people, if he's told you that law enforcement's told him this, law enforcement's told him that, FBI agents told him this, FBI agents told you that, he's full of turkey shit. Honestly, turkey shit. I've told y'all from day one, law enforcement's like 2-headed alligators. They eat at both ends and shit nothing out. FBI damn sure is the world's worst for that. But Lemhi County Sheriff's Office have been pretty good with talking, you know, trying to say, hey, you know, you're far off, or, you know, they'll share things that have hit the media, but they won't go into detail on some private issues. Okay. I don't go into some details on private issues that I have with the cases, because there's certain information that I've given law enforcement they didn't have. So, but I'll get into more of that in just a minute.
What do you think about the other thing I kind of wrote down when I was watching that was the hair on the shovel that Jessica was talking about. You know, it was muddy, right? And then I guess Isaac went away, came back supposedly, you know, I mean, obviously that's hearsay, but, you know.
He went and talked to law enforcement.
And came back and then rubbed the shovel handle and stuff like that. So,
so here's another thing. As a person that has background in this now, that when somebody mentions something like that shovel, nobody should have got around the shovel, period.
Right.
They should have taken it as evidence right at that point in time. They should have not let anyone touch it, not go near it, nothing, cough on it, nothing. So, you know, you're talking about a county that has very small population, not like around here. And maybe 12 deputies or 15 deputies or whatever it is. I mean, it's a low population but big land mass area. So it's, you know, things are forgotten in the world of law enforcement out there, more than likely. But the sheriff does do a great job. The sheriff that's there now. The sheriff prior to, the one that named the suspect, the parents of suspects. Right. It's a good thing he's retired. Yeah. Because, I mean, you just don't do that. A sheriff, that can mess up a case by a sheriff saying he names the parents of suspects because of a lie detector test. That's just, that's dumb. But anyway, I'm going to go on to part 4. And then we should be wrapping it up on that, and then we'll get into the big detail stuff. All right, here we go.
My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
Kuntz Jr. vanished in July 2015 while on a family vacation in a national forest. And now, we're trying to figure out how a 2-year-old disappears. The sheriff gave us 3 possibilities: animal attack, abduction, or the third theory, a family member or a friend could be involved. A private investigator working with the family told us that Dior's mother offered up a lot of details about the day he disappeared, and one stood out. It's the reason they rushed an hour-long drive all the way back into town before Dior went missing.
She's very emphatic that after eating breakfast or cooking breakfast, I found out it started my period, and I told Vernal that we have to go to town.
He said we would go in a little bit, and I kind of fought with him, and I was like, no, we need to go like now. When you're done with breakfast, we need to go.
This is the road she took with Dior and his dad. Jessica says they left camp in a hurry, but once in town, Jessica says Dior's dad made 4 stops before she could get what she needed.
He was, I have to get diesel fuel now. That's my first priority. So I just, okay, well, do what you need to do then. I'm just gonna sit here and just wait it out. Not like I haven't waited like 2 hours already. So, when we went back to the suit shop, that's what I went in and got what I needed to get. There was an older guy in the corner booth table that's in the front of the store, and he was just sitting there drinking coffee, but I would look over and he would be staring at Little Man. No expression on his face.
Has law enforcement asked you about the guy and the sitting at the table?
Yeah, we did. We met with a sketch artist.
You did? Okay. Have they been able to identify who that person is?
I don't know. I was told that it might be a local, but it might not be. And that's the last that I've heard about it.
We asked the sheriff if he figured out who the stranger was.
We did.
You did?
Yes.
You talked to him?
Yes.
What did he say?
He was visited with, and it was investigated. And
did he say, yes, I saw Dior, or did he?
He doesn't remember. He didn't remember. It was some time later when we finally put it together, and he doesn't recall.
There's a man sitting there, and he's creepy, and he's looking at the baby, and she got a bad feeling. It's somebody else. She's deflecting away from her.
At this point, we're just saying, okay, we're dealing with a liar.
So the private investigators think they're lying. And then there's the polygraph. In 2016, the sheriff named Dior's parents as suspects because they allegedly failed a lie detector test. Here's how the sheriff describes it.
And they could not pass the section on, do you know where Dior Kuntz is at this time, and do you know what happened to him? They could not pass those 2 parts of the polygraph. We've given them too many opportunities to tell us what happened if it was an accident, and there's been no interest in going that direction. So that tells me there's only one other possibility. It has to be a homicide.
I'll never forget this. He said the parents are suspects. And he was so forthcoming with information. As a reporter, I never had to, I just sat and listened in awe. He was just spilling the beans as far as they couldn't pass the lie detector test. They kept changing their story.
6.5 months passed since Dior disappeared. His parents split up. Jessica started seeing someone else. Dior's dad went back to work as a truck driver. In January 2016, a private investigator asked him to explain that failed polygraph test.
Why did you lie to me about your polygraph test?
Because that's what I was told. Check, there's an interview. That's his exact words were, it's inconclusive, but I'd say it's an inconclusive pass. Were his exact words to me. I never lied to anybody.
Okay, because when we've been told something completely different, that they told you that you absolutely failed with deception.
Welcome to Idaho, sweetheart. That's how this works, apparently.
So you're saying that
guilty until proven innocent with everybody.
It seems like there are just too many things that don't add up. Suddenly, people started turning on the family.
Yes, so you have a community that wants to find this little boy. We are the most giving community, and this entire state is. And we want to help find that little boy, but we also at some point, I think as a community, we felt betrayed. That if the parents were involved, we felt betrayed.
At this point, Dior's story appeared on the cover of People magazine. Conversations turned from rescuing Dior to what about those parents being named suspects? We asked Jessica's mother about all those accusations.
I say that Jessica is innocent. So I think she's a grieving mom looking for her son. But I can't say that 100% either. I just know in my heart that's how I feel, you know, but, and people have said, what happens if you get proved wrong? I've been proved wrong about other things before.
At this point, even her own mother seems to have doubt.
So, very interesting information there, Towton. I do want to say this, you know, private investigator, you know, what was that female private investigator? Was she an investigator or was she a model? I mean, it kind of looked like she was trying to model herself out there a little bit, but
yeah,
you know, I'm not knocking it. Hey, do your thing. But I'm not trying to win a beauty contest. I'm not trying to be out there in the media. Matter of fact, I run from the media, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you're not going to win a beauty contest. So
no,
we'll go with that.
I'll let you handle that. I'll let you handle that. But anyway, back to Dior.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I've seen a couple comments, and I want to address that pretty quickly on a couple people who are talking about, you know, us playing these videos right from the past, and you know, it's great private investigator work and things like that. But you have to understand that this is an old case, right? And I'm just now getting involved with this case to a point. And the reason why we're here tonight is really to allow other people that have never heard about this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was July 10th, 2015 when he goes missing. So it's not like we're trying to hash up old videos. We're just trying to analyze the videos that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that's been documented, talk about it, and basically, you know.
I'm going to put my 2 cents in worth it, though. At the end
well, you always do.
Well,
So,
at the end.
But the thing is we really want to open the eyes to more people than just you and I, and the people that's already been involved in this case. So that's kind of why we're actually playing this video, is because I had a lot of people after we did the first one contact me and really was just confused, right? So we didn't elaborate on the backstory as much as we could, where this elaborates on exactly the backstory of this whole situation. So I'm really glad that that's kind of why we're doing it. And then we'll get to answering anybody's questions and things like that. But I think just we need to elaborate on to the people that, hey guys, we're showing this so you understand this is an old case. We're going to bring new light to it, and hopefully we can just potentially go find the child. You know,
well, that's the main thing. Okay, so that's the purpose of what we're doing. We want to find baby Dior, but we're having to reverse the damage that Philip Klein has done, Frank Vilt. We ain't even got into Frank Vilt yet. I mean, talked about him, the first private investigator and all. So there's been a lot of damage. And for the law enforcement officer, for the sheriff to come out and say, well, we're naming them as suspects because they failed to polygraph. Wait a minute. Right. I've always been told by law enforcement that it was inconclusive. Then I hear the audio recording of the private investigator saying, why'd you lie to us? You told us you passed the polygraph, right, but you failed it. He said, wait a minute. I told you it was inconclusive, and they told me we're going to count as inconclusive pass. Okay. That's a whole total different ball game. So, and the questions that were asked, if you'll go back and watch what the sheriff is saying, you know, do you know where your son is? Well, of course, that's going to be a hard question for you to pass because the last place you saw him was up there on the mountain.
Yeah.
Jessica will tell you to this day, where do you think he is? And she says, the last place I saw him on that mountain.
Right.
Until you show me different, that's where I believe he is. Mm-hmm. Okay, no problem. So it's just, it irritates me to no end to see a case like this be just destroyed. Most of this stuff could have been kept under wraps, and it could have been in better control. But at the end of this, I'm gonna tell you what the damage is and what's gonna come out of it at the end. If we find that young man, I'm gonna tell you, it ain't gonna be good. And people, I don't want fingers pointed at me saying, "Hey, you're the one that messed up this case." No, you're not gonna get that. They're not gonna point the finger at Towton. They're gonna point the finger at everybody else, because I'm gonna tell you like it is, whether you like it or not. Now, a lot of people say, "How can you miss a child?" There were so many people up there right after this happened. There was searches. There's been searches after year after year after year. Do you remember, not long ago, I went to Raleigh and I found Drew Brown.
Okay, right.
Drew Brown was missing for 4.5 years. I found him in 30 minutes. And he was exactly where the command center was set up, within 30 feet of the command center that night when the gun went off and he passed. Law enforcement heard the gunshot in that exact area. The parents had been out there time and time again to go look for him and couldn't find him. 30 minutes. We found him, and he was exactly where the gunshots were heard. And it was only, I'd say, 50 foot from the school. So it can happen. It happens all the time. So I hope that we can locate this young man, and justice is up to the sheriff's department, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. It's about justice, but it's also about closure. It's a huge thing right at this stage. I mean, it's about closure. And then if there's justice after that, that's going to be icing on the cake.
Right. Well, I'm going to do this next one, and then we'll talk about it. There's more to talk about at the end, so good stuff.
We can't find him.
We're not here to be your defense investigators. We are here to be investigators and go find Diora. Wherever that trail leads us, wherever the evidence leads us, that's where we will go.
About 6 weeks after Philip Klein took on the case, he says his relationship with the Kuntz family began to unravel. Klein claims that he told the family about his suspicions during a meeting in January 2016.
And I was very clear. I said, look, you're not going to like what I have to say. And it was like, oh my God, these two people are suspects. There's just no doubt. They can't tell their stories right. They failed polygraph tests.
We found a court record showing the contract between Klein Investigations and the Kuntz family. But after Klein's confrontation, the family stopped cooperating.
3 days later, we were fired or not fired. He just said, oh, I'm not going to signature on this contract any longer. We said, great, fine.
Klein was the second private investigator that worked with the family. You're about to hear from the first, Frank Vilt. He quit the case by sending the family this letter.
And I said, I am withdrawing from the investigation. My stipulation was both of you would be absolute truthful. In my professional opinion, both of you lied and misrepresented the true facts that could possibly solve the mystery of your missing son. Sooner or later, the truth will come out.
We looked into Frank Vilt's background. This guy spent 19 years with the U.S. Marshal Service. He's retired now, but Vilt told us he knew the family and got involved because he wanted to help.
When a mother has lost her child, she looks into a camera and says, I want my child. Please help me find my child. I love my child. But she didn't want to do that.
Vilt looked into Jessica's past, and he didn't find any evidence, but Vilt has a hunch. You see, Jessica gave up full custody of her other 2 children to her ex-husband. This is all documented in court records. Vilt believes Jessica may have been motivated to give up Dior, too.
We have Jessica giving up custody of her other 2 kids from her former marriage, and I believe the mother made an arrangement to give her child up for adoption.
Jessica wrote about this in a Facebook message. She told us her ex-husband could financially provide her other children a better life when she wasn't working. And she says she sees the children often. Jessica says, I would have never in a million years given Dior up for adoption. Still, both sets of private investigators believe Jessica knows more than she's letting on.
Do you feel private investigators meddled in your life?
I feel like this latest one didn't help anything.
Philip Klein.
He did not help. He stirred up more drama, more negative. It's not about my son anymore. It's about what he says and how he spins it and how he plays it for his benefit. The minute somebody gets money like that, and that large chunk of money, and then flips on you, you're going, okay, wait a sec, did we miss something? So I feel like the focus has not been on my son.
She was talking about $25,000 raised on a GoFundMe account that pays out to Philip Klein's firm.
That's not for us. That's for travel, that's for hotels, that's for flying specialists in. That's what that is for.
On November 1st, 2017, Dior's father, Vernal, filed a lawsuit against Klein for breach of contract, libel, and slander. Klein fired back. 2 weeks later, he issued a public statement on his Facebook page asking the DA to consider charges against Dior's parents.
I think that they knew we were getting close, thus why they got the attorney. They knew we were getting very close. Look, in all these investigations, you always got to have a boogeyman. And a lot of times the boogeyman turns out to be one of the investigators. We're the ones that have made up the evidence. I've heard that so many times out of Idaho. It's just nuts.
At this point, Klein just stopped talking about the investigation. After all, there's an open lawsuit against him. But he sent us this statement. The truth is the ultimate defense. Jessica says the truth is on her side too, but she's not so sure about her own memory.
With the interrogations and being questioned so much and trying so hard to remember anything and everything, that puts a lot of strain on your memory. That puts a lot of strain on your brain. And at that point in time, being that, you're so out of control feeling, nothing makes sense. And everything just kind of jumbles together.
Yet some people have said, oh, she's changed her story.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like people that have been in a traumatic experience know exactly what I talk about. Like, it's a way to kind of protect yourself from the trauma that's going on around you. That's a way to protect yourself.
But Jessica may have found another way to protect herself. She says she was offered a deal for immunity.
Yeah, I had to show them where he was.
Jessica explains.
So, we got quite a bit to talk about on this one here. Now, okay, so let's first talk about the first PI. The first PI was a U.S. Marshal retired.
Frank.
Frank.
Yep.
His main job was to find abducted children that were taken by a parent. Like, you got two parents getting into a scuff.
Mm-hmm.
One parent takes them across state lines and takes them to another state or whatever.
Okay.
Not knocking it. That's noble work. That is a great thing.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a lot easier than what we're talking about.
Because you know who you're looking for.
Yeah, we
simple.
know. And I understand what Frank was saying. Hey, we need to set this up. We need to do a offer a reward. Well, in the background, the FBI and the sheriff's department were saying, oh, no, because they didn't want all these false leads coming in.
Mm-hmm.
These false leads they have to go and check every one of these single false leads. Yeah. They already knew something else was up. And believe it or not, it's not so much the parents. They're looking at all four of them.
Right.
You know, they're not pointing their finger exactly. You did it, Bob. You did it, Isaac. You did it, Jessica. You did it, Vernal.
Mm-hmm.
No. And they're not supposed to do that with a lie detector test. Lie detector test is just a tool for them to continue to investigate. That's all that is. But Frank Vilt was very good at what he did when it come to abducted children with spouses or whatever. I talked to Frank Vilt for a while, and his biggest issue, it wasn't changing of the stories. He said that it just changed. I said, well, what changed? And he would be like, well, 1 minute a child was sitting in a chair, and then the next minute, what?
Well, that's
hold up. Y'all got to understand, things change over time, or within that high pressured situation, whether the child was sitting in a chair, or whether the child was falling in a fire, or whether the child was doing this, doing that. Little things change, not the big picture. So overall, big picture wise, the parents haven't changed their story much at all.
No, the small details are hard to
remember.
I mean, they just that's a lot going on. And then you had 100 volunteers there, pretty much just like that, searching.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on, right? I mean, I don't, you know.
It's, and then you got all the media and all the Facebook people and everybody else wanting to say it's the parents, or dogging on them, or, you know, every little thing happens. Like, I can't tell you whether I was sitting in this chair yesterday, that chair yesterday, whatever.
Right.
I mean, just things change. So overall, big picture, common sense will tell you their stories really never varied that much. It never did. Bob's went from I don't remember to he did remember.
Yeah. I wasn't watching him, but I was watching him. You know what I
him.
mean?
And then Isaac too. Isaac's story changed. So y'all have no idea until, you know, you cannot take 80% of a story and come out with 100% conclusion. And that
makes sense.
That's what both private investigators did at the beginning. Now, Frank Vilt, bless his heart, wanted to do the reward. The family said no because the FBI told them no. And I understand that. They didn't want to muddy the waters, and not that early.
Yeah.
So, okay, no big deal. So, the last video I have is the final video.
Okay.
Unless you say, David, I really want to get into Isaac's story deeper, because if we do, I'm just going to unleash a whole load of information, and I don't. Either way, I know you said you wanted to see it, so the last video is short as well.
Right.
I like talking about these videos, but see, now that everybody can catch up on the story. I mean, guy, you got to think about this, guys. Every time we do a podcast, we have to start at the beginning, because people come on and say, "What's this about? Where are you going?"
We got that all last week. People calling me and texting me didn't understand any of it. So I was like, "Look, we need to go to the beginning. We've got to start. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit longer, but we're going to get everybody up to
par.
Up to par right now, and then we can start getting into more details in the future and stuff like that." So I did want to say one thing. I did write down where they were talking about, you know, Jessica giving up custody, you know, and then they were kind of harping on that. Honestly, I ruled that out real quick. The adoption and situations, but giving up custody really doesn't mean you're guilty. I mean, they kind of played it that way, and I was like, that made no sense to me. You know what I mean? They were kind of, well, you gave up custody to them. Hey, we all fall on hard times at some point in time. And I think maybe she did the right thing by giving up custody for the benefit. That's just showing her love for her children.
Well, I mean, glass half empty, glass half full. Yeah. That's how the audience looks at it. Okay. To me, that was very responsible and very adultish to do.
That's a hard decision to make.
Well, I was giving up for adoption.
Yeah.
You know? So I understand that sometimes you have to accept defeat and swallow your pride and do what's best for others.
The child and the children. Yeah. And she did. And I believe that was an awesome thing, right?
So I don't hold that against her.
Nope. I do not at all.
And you know, at least the children are taken care of. That's what should be the good thing about the whole ordeal, but not punishing her and saying, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? You got to think about it now. It's not her mom's responsibility, her stepdad or her dad or her grandfather's responsibility to take care of those kids. It's hers. And she saw that and her ex's responsibility. And she decided, hey, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm turning children over. Yeah. Now, it's different with Dior because Dior, her and Vernal were together.
Yeah,
they weren't married, but they were together.
Yeah. Makes sense why he's there. I
right.
100%.
So we're going to talk about it. We're going to play the last video, and the last video has some interesting details, and I'm going to explain to you why. But then if you say you want to watch the Vernal thing, Vernal's videos are like 5 minutes long, and there's 3 of them. And it goes in, he talks. I'd love to sit there and talk while he's doing it, but then you would miss out on information.
Right, yeah.
I don't want to do that. So let me get to part 6, and then we'll talk.
We can't find him.
I'm 99% sure he's probably deceased.
Jane Holmes worked with Private Eye Philip Klein. She's about to drop another theory that could change the entire story.
Some people have speculated that something had happened to the child before they went on the trip to try and cover up the child's death, possibly, or an accident, or whatever may have happened.
One reason behind her hunch is a lack of photos taken by Dior's mother. The investigators say that she always posted pictures of her son on Facebook, but not during that camping trip.
Did you take any pictures, by the way, at all during the camping trip?
No.
Okay. Any particular reason? Just didn't think about it?
Just when I'm camping, I don't really, I didn't have service. I kind of wanted to relax and enjoy being camping.
Okay.
At this point, Jessica says she had 2 witnesses in town that saw her with Dior. One was a store clerk. The other worked at a restaurant.
We questioned those witnesses. They never saw a child inside that. So now we have 2 witnesses saying, what are you talking about? There was no child.
I'm pretty comfortable saying he's not in this particular area right here.
Is there evidence that Dior was actually last seen at that campsite?
We believe he was.
You believe he was? What's the proof?
It's just the various timelines, the testimony that we've collected.
Testimony, but there's no physical proof, no photos.
Correct.
So it's the official belief of the Sheriff's Department that he was up there?
Yes.
Are you investigating any chances that maybe he wasn't?
Yes.
2 years after Dior's disappearance, his family went back out searching.
I feel like people have kind of given up on trying to help us find him. Like this weekend, made it public that we're coming up here, nobody shows up.
Do you think that's because they've turned on you, blaming you?
I think for some people, yeah.
Some people say you know something.
If I knew something, I would have spoken the first day. That's my child. I would die for him.
Dior's mother says she was offered a deal, a get-out-of-jail-free card.
I had to show them where he was. And I said, I don't know that, so I'm never signing that. And I slid it back across the table and I said, get it out of my face. Because that just pisses me off, like, I don't know anything.
If Jessica was offered a deal, the sheriff isn't talking. He had no comment. But what we did get was this photo of what Dior was last seen wearing. Cowboy boots, a blue shirt, and a camo jacket. But kids grow a lot from age 2 to 4. That's why the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children created this image of what Dior might look like as a 4-year-old.
I want him to come home, but 2 years later you start kind of, thinking, well, that's maybe never going to happen. And you start kind of accepting that in a way and saying, well, at least getting answers is better than what we're doing now.
Jessica says none of the 4 people at the campsite really talk to each other anymore.
3, 4, 5, 6.
But she's still searching for the truth.
Come home, Dior! Come home safe! Come home!
A lot of those people that pointed the finger at me or pointed the finger at any of us, you know, are gonna kind of feel like idiots in a way. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so so fast to jump to conclusions. But in the end, I know that the truth is gonna come out.
So what do you think there, buddy?
The picture thing.
Okay.
So quick.
All right.
Little comment on that. You know, they were talking about, well, you didn't take any pictures, right? Obviously, cell service was really bad, but they went up Friday night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're getting there Friday evening, probably getting ready to set up
About
camp.
9:30.
Oh, that late.
Yeah.
So getting up there this late. Who in the world's worried about taking pictures? We got to get our tent or however they were staying in set up,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes missing Saturday. So I don't know if there's a lot of time to be taking pictures. So
I mean, when are you going to have it? I mean, there's so much going on. So when you get there, obviously, see, Grandpa and I think Grandpa slept in the camper.
Okay.
Isaac made a tent, and the parents and Dior slept in the back of the Suburban.
Okay,
They made them
so they
a
were in the
makeshift
Suburban
place or whatever.
Okay, I
don't
can
know.
see that. Makes sense.
So I guess when they got up the next morning, they had to eat breakfast. They did whatever, get ready, do whatever. That's when Jessica realized, uh-oh, I'm on my period. I got to have some products. We got to go. Dior says, or Vernal says, okay. So they get in the vehicle. They go down to the town.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, Vernal says, my first priority is getting Diesel.
Okay.
A lot of people don't think about shit like this, but I do. That's normal to me. Why does that sound normal to me? Do you know why diesel fuel would be your first priority in a vehicle you just purchased and don't know if that needle's correct or not?
Exactly.
Why would that be your first priority?
I mean, that road was 45 minutes
Yeah.
to the campsite.
But why a diesel? Oh, wait a minute. You're not into heavy equipment like I am, or diesel trucks and all. If you run out of diesel, you got to reprime the thing, and that's a hard, difficult son of a bitch.
See, I've never
do.
ran out of diesel, so
Yeah.
I'm good. I've
Trust
never ran
me,
out of gas.
Gas is one thing, but when you get low on diesel, that's
Right.
a whole nother ball game.
Okay.
You got to reprime and everything. I've had heavy equipment, you known it. I've had big trucks. I've had
Right.
F-350s, whatever. So I know why diesel was on his mind, because if he ran out, you're screwed.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I was just thinking if it ran out, that's a long walk down that dirt road.
Well, that's one of them. I forgot you don't do diesel stuff and all, but that would be. I can understand why he says diesel is my first priority, because hey, if I run out, it's not that I just ran out. Now I got to prime the thing.
Yeah.
So it's an ordeal.
Okay.
So that's just minor, but it makes sense. It makes sense in the whole scheme of things of how they were playing it. So, then I get to what Philip Klein said. He said he went to the store and they questioned the witnesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can understand the witness of the waitress lady or the lady at the checkout counter.
Okay.
But how about the mysterious guy with the coffee?
True.
How long did law enforcement say it took them to find him?
It was a
while.
It was a little while. Exactly.
So much that the man didn't even remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can understand that. I mean, if I'm in a restaurant, I can't remember everybody there.
Right. So okay. Is that another lie? We can just excuse it as absent-minded. Maybe he just said it.
Absolutely.
No problem. We're going to give the benefit of the doubt. So the sheriff believes that the child's not at the camp anymore. Did you see that? Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That interested me. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not believe he's up there? Because they searched.
Right.
But I don't know if the sheriff's ever done what I've done. Another case, Jaciel Gonzalez. Okay. The SBI went in with 19 agents for over a week and searched his property. It was no bigger than 3 acres, but it's wooded.
Okay.
They had 2 cadaver dogs. Searched the whole area, couldn't find anything. We get there, 15, 20 minutes. We had the guns in a bag that had blood on them. That was the first thing they found. We go back to the car. All of a sudden, the deputy sheriff pulls up and says, "Hey, what'd y'all find?" We go out there. We show him. He comes back, takes pictures of the guns, everything. And then we said, well, we're creatures of habit. So if this is under pine straw, he's probably under pine straw. We go out 15, 20 minutes. I'm not kidding you. All of a sudden, there he is, laying on the ground under pine straw. So it can happen, folks. It can happen all day long. It can be missed over and over and over and over again. That's how it is. So judge me if you want to, but I'm fixing to talk about Isaac. I will tell you right now, I will bet my license, my private investigation license, to the other private investigator, Mr. Philip Klein. I bet my license against his license. I know what I'm talking about, and I know I'm going to be right. That's hard to say if you know how hard it is to get a PI license. So, will he take it? I don't know. But I can tell you the parents did not do this. Isaac is the one I'm looking at, 100,000%, and Bob. Now, you might wonder why Bob. Okay. So, you remember when Bob made the statement, I know everything.
Yeah.
I saw everything.
Yep.
Then Bob made some weird comments over the years, like when's the funeral, or if you saw him at the balloon release, it's like, my God, what are y'all doing? What's this for? I see Jessica crying, I see Vernal upset, and I see Bob like, what the hell? He's an old guy, but
it's age related and his mind's going, you think?
I don't know. For him not to see anything, and then Vernal or Isaac coming back to camp.
Yeah.
He wasn't behind Dior not even a minute or two. So how did you not see the child?
Yeah.
There's other stories. There's other things in between this. So when the parents, I wish I had a map to pull up. I really do. I can't pull it up, but anyway, I'll pull it up on the next one. So when the parents walk up with Isaac, they go up about 3/4 of, almost all the way up. Isaac stops and points to the areas. The reservoir's right up the hill, so he points up there.
Okay.
About the fish stuff. So the parents cross over the creek, and there's a dog. We all forget about the old Poochie, the dog. Okay. So the dog stays with the parents. Baby Dior's already over with grandfather's, right? So they're 3/4 of the way. Isaac doesn't go down in the bottom and cross over the creek with them. He stops, says, that's where we caught him, right over there, and he turns around and walks off. Goes back to the camp.
Okay.
All right. So one, how did Isaac not see the child? All right. That's the big issue.
I agree.
All right. So when the parents cross the creek, they start going up towards the top of where the campsite is. Okay. There's rocks you can cross over, and there's tadpoles there. It's like a little island. So it takes them a minute to get up there. The dog comes back. All right. Once they get up to the top and they see these tadpoles, it takes them a while, and they see the tadpoles, and then Vernal says, well, I'm going to go get little man because little man's going to want to see the tadpoles.
Yeah.
So he walks out, comes out on the grass, gets about the 3/4 mark, about where they went across to start with, sees the baby's gone. The baby's nowhere to. He yells out to Grandpa, hey, where's baby Dior? Or where's little man?
Right.
Well, I don't know. And all of a sudden, Jessica hears him yelling. So Jessica, and if you know anything about the creeks there and all, it's rushing water. You can't hear shit.
So it's loud.
If
Okay.
you're down at the bottom part, the 3/4 and down lower, you can't really hear a whole lot. If you're up on the campground, up or high above it, you can hear. And if you're where Jessica is, you can hear because it's like a cul-de-sac, like the echoing.
Okay.
So she comes out and finds out, oh, what happened? Where's little man? So they start looking for him. Who's the one person besides baby Dior missing in this whole ordeal? It's Isaac.
Isaac. Yep.
Isaac's nowhere to be found. But the key thing is, I talked to Isaac. I did an interview with Isaac. Isaac did other interviews. Isaac tells on himself where he's at. Isaac tells on himself that he can see everybody, but nobody can see Isaac. The next time they see Isaac is about an hour and a half to 2 hours later when search and rescue are bringing him up from the creek. Hour and a half, 2 hours. Come on.
Yeah.
The dog. Here's the good thing about the dog. The dog loved baby Dior. That's why the dog ran away from the parents and went back to baby Dior and where Grandpa was, right?
Okay.
So Isaac's missing. If you'll go down, if you're coming into the campgrounds, there's a guard gate. Okay. When you cross that guard gate, there's a road to the right that goes across the creek, or you go straight and you go up to the campground. Okay. When the baby was missing and Isaac was missing, Vernal left the campsite, was going to go get a telephone call, right?
Right. Yeah.
He comes down to where almost at cattle gate, picks up the dog. Now, why is the dog almost at the cattle gate?
Exactly.
Why is the dog wet at the cattle gate? There's no water there. The water's down at the creek. And you can get to the creek from that path. My thing is, when I have Vernal, get this, people, I have Vernal and Isaac talking to one another head on like this. Isaac couldn't keep his story straight. Isaac was watching Vernal the whole time. Isaac could see Vernal the whole time while he was down in the bottom. And if you go down there, you can actually look up and you can see what's going on up there.
Okay.
But you can't really see what he's doing down there at the bottom. So he and Isaac get into an argument about what transpired because Vernal says, I didn't just leave. I picked the dog up and I backed up. And Jessica's telling me to go. She's trying to get a signal on her phone.
Right.
So then he leaves with the dog.
Yeah.
So he's backing up. All of a sudden, go. He leaves. So he's leaving one time, the campsite, one time on that truck.
Right, to go get a signal.
He left out the gate, went and got a signal, made the phone call 911. So you got Jessica in the camp. She's on the phone with 911. Vernal's on the phone with 911. Vernal's got the dog and the dog's wet. Why is the dog wet? The dog followed Dior, baby Dior, religiously. Loved that little boy. Why is the dog down there towards Isaac, where Isaac is? Because Isaac had baby Dior. Isaac, I want to cuss so bad. I can't. Isaac killed that boy. Isaac got rid of that boy. Isaac's the guilty one. Bottom line, I will release my recordings and show you. I can't do it right now because I didn't do the audio record thing, but I'll show you. I'll release them. Isaac is the guilty party here. Whether Bob knew or not, the kind of comments he's made makes me think Bob knew. Bob knew what Isaac did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people say, what's his motive? Why would he just kill a child? Because he was in love with Jessica. He wanted Jessica. He knew about Jessica when Bob lived next to him. He saw her pictures. Bob talked about Jessica. Jessica was his favorite. You know, he talked about her. Jessica was taking care of Bob. And Isaac had it in his mind that if he got rid of that child, he could have a shot at Jessica. I do believe that wholeheartedly. If you knew the porn that this dude watched, including child porn, was found on his computer by one of his friends, I'll say friend, okay, that's sick. This dude's twisted. I went in his house, sat down and talked to him. The books he reads on crime, the books he reads on forensics type stuff will blow your mind. What he does, witchcraft, all kinds of crazy mess. I will play the recordings. I will give the recordings up. I need to, because so many people want to blame the parents. But see, when I first sat down with the parents and talked to the parents, you just got to know as an investigator what to do, what to look for. It's not so much you have to have a heart for it, you have to have a mind for it. And I can tell you that these parents were young and did not know heads or tails about real life. They wanted to live life, but didn't really know how. I mean, they were just young. And I can tell you the heartache and pain I saw out of that dad when we left Isaac's. Matter of fact, when we were backing out of the darn driveway, Bernal yells, "He killed my fucking son. I'm going to kill that motherfucker." I said, "Dude, hold up. You got to calm down."
Right.
Because I didn't need Isaac to hear that. Because, I mean, Isaac's still standing out there in the front yard.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the passion. And see, the mama goes up there every single year looking for him. The grandmother goes. Do I feel grandfather knows? Yeah. Because Bernal included grandfather in one of his statements about what was going on. And the statement was he saw grandpa up at the top of the hill walking back and forth. And he yelled up to him, "Hey, what's going on?" And grandpa said, "We can't find baby Dior." Well, that's bullshit to start with, because I told you earlier, the water rushing down there, you cannot hear shit if you're standing at that creek at the bottom part.
Right.
Because it's rushing so far and loud. I mean, it is loud. We'll do a test up there.
Right.
And I'll show you where you just cannot hear me unless I scream to the top of my lungs. And already you can tell by Isaac's demeanor, he don't yell.
Mm-hmm.
If he did, I still don't believe you could hear him. But grandfather couldn't hear good anyway. So by him saying grandfather was walking back and forth, well, grandfather's on oxygen too now. He's not like he great physical athletic ability.
Yeah.
But that's out of Isaac's mouth. Isaac sees everybody. And in our interviews, Isaac tells me where everybody is. Why are you watching everybody instead of paying attention to what you're doing?
Yeah.
There's a problem. The dog being down at the bottom at the gate or near the gate coming out from the creek, that's a problem. And it wouldn't take but a second for Isaac to snatch the kid up, throw him over his shoulder, carry him on down to the creek, do whatever he's going to do, dig, bury him, whatever. But I can tell you this. You want to know what one of the major things is about Isaac?
What's that?
Okay, so you remember when my dog's alerted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I said both dogs heart alert. Well, I was told to leave the premises. They were going to close it down. Penner was going to close it down and wait for Children Missing Exploited to come in, and they brought their dog in. Their dog did some crazy stuff. But we all left, and we're just not to go back. We're just to leave it alone, and they're going to handle it. Little did I know it was going to be months later. But they went ahead and closed it down, whatever. And Penner found a bone out there, and it looked like sort of like a skull bone, but he didn't know, and I thought it looked animal, but at that point in time, I didn't know. So he sent that off to FBI, and it come back inconclusive or whatever. It might be animal bone, whatever. So, when we get there, I'm fixing to tell you what happened. So, in this one area of the creek, of the bottom, our dog's hard alert, and we're told to leave, whatever. So I go to Isaac, and I go question Isaac. But the first thing I say, I go in and I say, well, Isaac, I think we found him. You found him? Where? In the sediment in the creek?
So why you say that? Yeah.
I am shitting you not. He said it. He said it just like that. He took the deep breath. And I can just tell you, he put himself almost to the identical position those dogs alerted while Vernal was in the car with me. And from that point, you can look right up that hill and see where a vehicle is straight up from that point. So everything is matching up to this whole situation. That's why we're going back. We're going back because, one, I don't feel like ground penetrating radar is the way to go when you got sediment, you got rocks, you got all this other stuff. Number two, because of the interview I did with Isaac and the interviews he did with other people, that you coincide them with what I have, and it's like, that's where he's at.
Right.
He can't be any other place.
No, he's there. I mean, in my opinion, and just from an outside source, he's there. We need boots on the ground, and we need to go search.
Let me tell you what my biggest fear is. This is the reason why we're doing these podcasts. We don't have to. We can just go on up there and go find him.
Yeah, we definitely ain't making any money or anything. So
but let me tell you why I'm doing it. Because I need to reverse the bullshit Philip Klein did and Frank Bilt. Because I know what's going to happen. Let me tell you verbatim. We go out there and we find them. And they decide they're going to charge someone. And let's say they go to Isaac, which I'm pretty confident that's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go to Isaac, arrest him. Well, Isaac's going to tell the defense attorney, which is probably his daddy or daddy's friend or whatever, and say, well, Bob killed him. I just got rid of the body. So I'm going to do my 10 years and I'm out. That's what's going to happen. Bottom line. After all the bullshit that's been said, been talked about, you know, that's why you have to be careful what you say when you're doing a podcast. I can say comfortably 100,000% because I've done this so many times. You know how many times I've done it. It changes a little, but it's usually within that realm. And that's why I could put my license on the line against somebody else's, because I'm telling you that it was Isaac. 100,000,000%. I mean, how can you not see it? I mean, I know more things than what people are hearing on this thing.
Yeah. But what they're seeing is very limited, is like what I'm seeing.
I'm giving y'all a gist of the things. There's more to it. So, but you got to take in account the facts. Isaac rubbing his hands up and down the shovel. Isaac missing for an hour and a half. Nobody talks about that. Isaac changing his story, which he did. I can show y'all the videos if y'all want to see them. Y'all got 15 more minutes. He'll make 10 o'clock. He'll make a 2-hour show. Then Isaac hard resetting his phone. I believe that was to get rid of the child pornography that he had.
Yeah.
And maybe his location. But up there on the mountain, a location, that's just very hard to do. And for him to put himself exactly, I mean, do you think I can get my dogs to go alert exactly where he puts himself?
Right.
He puts himself there.
Yeah.
Unless he was watching what my dogs were doing, he wouldn't know exactly where that was. So I do believe he's there, but I believe he's further up. I believe that's where the odor pool was.
Okay.
So it could be further. I just didn't get to go.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this. The guy with East Idaho News, what's his name? God, slipped my mind. Anyway, the one that does most of these stories on Dior Coons, he went to CrimeCon and told people a bald-faced lie. Matter of fact, I'll just show you the video.
Now, here's where the story takes an interesting twist. There's been 3 PIs that have been involved with it. The first one was a retired U.S. Marshal who the family knew, who said, I will come and I will represent you for free. And the first thing I want to do is offer a cash reward for information that leads to your son. And according to him, the parents declined that. The parents declined an interview with Good Morning America, with Nancy Grace, with National News. In fact, as I said, the only interview they gave was to us. Again, this is where I think if I was missing my daughter, Emmy, I would be on every broadcast you could get me on. But maybe because that's because I work in the media. I don't know. But we all deal with things differently, and I'm not criticizing their opinion, but they kind of shut down. So Frank Vilt joins the case, and he starts to do media appearances. He comes and talks to me. He goes up to the campsite and he does a reenactment with an actual 2-year-old child to see where the child would go. He had the parents up there. They restaged the whole things as much as they could. But then he fires them. Or he doesn't fire them. I guess he can't fire them, but he drops them. This is the letter that he gave us that he sent to them. He says, I'm withdrawing from the investigation because of circumstances beyond my control. I'm perplexed as to why you did not want me to advertise the $20,000 reward. I was willing to put up personal funds in hopes that the public could provide information leading to the whereabouts of your son. When I agreed to assist you, I informed you that I would work out-of-pocket expenses. Basically, I was going to volunteer my time and my money. And then the last sentence of paragraph 2. In my professional opinion, both of you lied and misrepresented the true facts that could solve the mystery of your missing son. There are other aspects of this case. I cannot go into it this time, but simply put, I believe that the searches will all be non-productive. The searches are only used by you to cover a possible crime that one or the both of you may have committed. My suggestion is that you fully cooperate with the Lemhi County Sheriff and tell the truth. Pretty bold letter. Their response, they didn't have one. He ends it with, sooner or later, the truth will come out. Then another private investigator joins the case, Philip Klein, there on the left, based in Texas. He was actually, the family did a bunch of fundraisers so they could hire him and bring him on to the case. They did an auction on Dior's birthday, a birthday party spaghetti dinner that you could pay, and all the proceeds would go to hire Philip Klein. So Philip Klein agrees to join the case, and he tells them up front, you may not be happy with my results. I don't have a dog in this fight, but you may not be happy with my results because they might come back to hurt you, or you might be happy with them. Regardless, I want to let you know that I'm being independent. The family said that's fine. They all agreed to sit down with him. This was before Grandpa died. They all did videotaped interviews with him for hours. He came to Idaho several times. He liked to do media appearances. He probably said too much in those media appearances. But he really took this case and ran with it. He came out and said, at the conclusion, that he believes Jessica knows where her son is. He didn't elaborate on that, but he also had the same conclusion as that first investigator that the parents were not telling the truth. He did an interview with me, and he said simple things like, what did you eat for breakfast that morning? Didn't line up. Jessica would give one answer, Vernal would give another. Simple things about who slept in what vehicle or who slept in a tent. He said that it was all over the place, that there were 7 or 8 different versions of simple questions based on the interview at different times. He went public. The family sued, at least Vernal sued him. It got into a nasty legal dispute. That got settled and went away. But Philip Klein still to this day has said that he has videotapes of these interviews that he wants to release. And actually, in a few weeks, we're going to talk to him on Crime HQ. If you sign up for Crime HQ, it's going to be a live interview that you can type in questions to him if you want. We're also going to talk with the sheriff, who's been on this case from the beginning, and the grandmother of these two. So Philip Klein leaves the case. Then David Marshburn comes to Idaho, another PI from North Carolina, with his dogs. And they go up to the campsite, and his dogs hit on something. Now, dogs had been through this site before, so they had been over all of these areas, and that's what was kind of unusual, is that his dogs really hit on a specific area. They had to dig down, they had to pick up whatever the dogs hit on. They sent that to the FBI in Virginia, Quantico, and after about a year, it was returned that it was an animal bone. It was not human. So you've had these 3 PIs that have done it. David Marshburn has not issued a ruling on what he thinks happened, but the 2 PIs definitely have been clear in what they think happened as far as who knows something.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, I'm going to say it. Nate Eaton, you're full of shit as a Christmas turkey. I've told people from the beginning, you know, I was going to look at the parents, and then from there I'll work it out. I've been on here before, and I've told y'all, I believe Isaac did it. My dogs did not alert on any animal bones. They won't. They can't. They don't. Just the bottom line. Kaz was probably the best in the world. I mean, he was just good. Rico was up there, but he wasn't up to par like Kaz was. I can just tell you, it won't animal bone they hit on. If they hit on odor, okay, I'll show you. Well, I can't show you really. I can't hold it up and do it. Anyway, if the dog's alert and it's a pooled area, just like dogs did before back in the day, and they're coming upstream, if you have a pooled area, that's where they're going to hit, unless you go further. But I couldn't. I had the sheriff there with me. I mean, he walked every step I did. So there was nothing I could do. I had to do what he told me to, stop, let their dog come out. Their dog came out, was acting happy too. And then we had to leave, and we left. So there's different stages of death, and you got to understand that. The stage that I deal with mostly is bone and teeth. That's what I train my dogs with. Bone and teeth, bone and teeth. Mm-hmm. That's it. Now, Jerry Lee is being trained with 5 different odors, whatever it is, skin, live tissue, all this stuff. I just do bone and teeth. When Jerry Lee gets here, that's all he's going to hit on is bone and teeth, because that's all I'm going to have. I'm not going to do fresh, rotted flesh and all that stuff. It's just, that's not what I do. By the time I get to a case or get on to it, it's mostly bone and teeth. Mm-hmm. So why would you train your dog on anything else?
Right.
I mean, now, I'm reading along here, and I'm seeing something kind of struck my interest here. Said that, so they mean to tell me, let's see. So this Donna Tharp, I guess her name is. So you're saying sitting there in your little comfortable chair, by the way, this chair is not comfortable. It's a gaming chair, and I hate it. I despise it. That no one searched this one little place. Oh, yeah, they did. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they did search it. I'm just saying that the way the ground is up there, you have sediment, which is 110 10%, would you say, compaction rate within a day, of settling and water and everything else. So with the compaction rate, the rock, everything else, I'm telling you, dogs went through there. Dogs hit from downstream all the way up. Okay? There's a certain area you don't have to go to. I don't think you have to go to the reservoir. Don't really believe that. They say that dogs were hitting on ashes from someone being cremated, which I think that was ridiculous. I mean, unless there was chunks of bone and stuff in there, but the odor should have been burned out of it by then, by the time you had that much heat to it. So I don't think that was a possibility. Now, there is algae, to teach you guys something. There is algae, certain algae that grows that has the odor of decomposition of a body. It does. And you get false alerts around water areas. You always do. So that's why it's important that when we go up there, we do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do what I need to do to make sure when our dog's alert that it is checked out right then and there, thoroughly, no questions asked. It is either him or not.
Yep. And eliminate the false reports.
Yeah. Eliminate bullshit.
Simple.
Because look, I'm not bringing ground penetrating radar. There's no use for it in sediment with rocks and everything else. You're not gonna do. It's no good. It's absolutely no good. The reflection of the radio waves and everything else just bounce back up. That's done. Look, Isaac might look dumb to you guys, but I'm telling you, he's very smart when it comes to reading these novels and these crime books and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what always was in his house, this Wiccan stuff. And I mean, the dude's out there.
Yeah.
But yes, I will release those recordings. I will.
And I think that'd be good because we do have limited video and audio of Isaac.
Yeah.
So anything that can kind of highlight that or bring light to Isaac's demeanor, it'd be nice to hear and see that stuff in the future.
Well, I'm sorry this podcast took so long, but if y'all want to watch Isaac's interviews, do you want to watch them now or do you want to just...
I think we should come back and do the audio and video, maybe just a little bit on Isaac alone.
We'll just do a podcast on Isaac.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you guys, I have nothing on the parents. I can't find nothing on the parents.
Mm-hmm.
The bullshit that Philip Klein made up about these parents that has shown no proof. He says he only has audio on certain issues, which he's probably changed it and twisted it. Other family members and other people have contacted me to tell me about the shit he's pulled. I just can't believe his lying ass.
Yeah.
I can't.
And he got paid $25,000 to come up with someone isn't telling the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, genius. Good job, buddy.
The evidence. Where is the evidence? I need tangible evidence.
Yeah.
I don't have tangible evidence. I can tell you I don't. I have a recording of one man telling me that where in the sediment in the creek, because he knows that's where it was. He put himself there on this map. He pointed at it, signed the damn thing, signatured it. Marshall was there with me. I mean, you can't get any better than that. So when we do find him, geographical location is going to tell you who done it. Bottom line. Yeah. So Isaac, go out there and move it. I dare you, because the camera will catch you, because they got cameras up there now. So you ain't going to get by with nothing up there from what I was told. But I wanted to end it with one other video. And
okay.
This will show you how people care in that community. And the one person I'm talking about is the sheriff. Watch the sheriff's response in this. The parents are sad and the grandparents are sad. But when I see the sheriff, when he acts this way, it's an emotional thing. But I think the sheriff really cares. And once this finishes playing, I'm just going to cut it off. Well, unless you want to say bye to the people.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do that? We'll come back. All right. If you got tears in your eyes, just wipe them real quickly. All right, here we go.
What would you say to baby Dior?
I love you, Bubba. You're my pride and joy as a family. Every one of us love you, and we pray every day that we'll be reunited again, and we'll do sparklers. We'll have 4th of July. We'll do your birthdays. We'll do everything that we've missed, because there's not a day that goes by that we don't miss you.
We gotta go there.
Daddy's never forgot you, and he never will. I will find you. Till the day I die, I will continue. You will always be in my mind, and I will do whatever it takes to find you. And I love you, son. More than anything in this world. I love you.
I would just say that I hope he's being taken care of. That I love him more than anything in this world. And we miss him, and we want him to come home.
You are loved. You are a child of our community. And we will do everything we can to solve this case and make sure that we have the answers and the facts.
You know, I would just, you know, I'm not going to give up.
Man, that's a true sheriff that cares. You know, him tearing up, and I mean, he's emotional over the whole thing. But I can tell you guys, okay, I don't want to change your mind. I want y'all to believe what Philip Klein tells you to believe. That I think that's the best thing for y'all to do. Y'all don't worry about what MIA does.
Yeah.
Please don't. Don't worry about it, because I'm not going to bullshit you. That's the bottom line. You don't want bullshit. You want fairy tales. Go listen to his stuff or follow him or whatever. I'm just telling you, if you want a case solved, you have to do it the right way. I care about Dior's case. I came back to it after all the other BS that's been going on around this area. And I actually brought friends. Towton Art. We got Jim Hanson. He's going to help out with the whole ordeal. Towton, let me tell y'all guys, Towton even went and bought an RV this past week just so we can make this trip. How about that? You talking about friends? You talking about people that care? If y'all think we don't care, go to hell.
Yeah.
And
we're not getting $25,000. I mean, so this is all out of pocket. You know what I mean? This isn't, you know, the gas, everything. We're going to be covering the cost of it.
Yeah.
We're going to do this, you know. So I did want to say a little bit to Jessica and Vernal. You know, a lot of people have given up on this case, and I want to let them know that we're still here, or I know David's still here. I'm just getting involved in it, in this situation, but I kind of like to see some closure on this for the family and hopefully for justice too.
And I told Towton, when we find this little boy, it's not going to be a joyous thing. It's going to be a mixed feeling of all over the place. It's tough. These cases are tough. Philip Klein's never found a single person missing except for some girl that was just like Frank Vilt did, an absconded child or whatever. He's never solved one of these, but gained a gob amount of money for missing person cases and never got anywhere with them.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you want to. Believe him. I don't give a shit. I can just tell you, for the mama, for the daddy, for the grandmother, I'm doing this case. Okay? And I can tell you with certainty, 100,000%, like I said before, Isaac, and where I'm on the fence was, does Bob know, does Bob not know?
Right.
And that's
going to be hard to, I mean, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So I mean, That's a
but I do
sad
have his
situation.
interviews, so
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. And so anyway, do I need anybody's approval? No. I just need to know that we can find him, get him back, because technically it's nobody's business but the family's, really, technically, if you want to look at it. But we're going to assist it. We're going to come from North Carolina. We're going to go to Idaho. We're going to find this little boy. And when we do, and I prove every one of you damn people that come out of La La Land that believe everything that Darren Philip Klein says, I hope to prove you over. That's better to me than anything. It's proving people wrong that I've done time and time and time again. How many people have I found? Do you know the answer to that?
Honestly, I do not know the total number yet.
People I found, there's 2 in this 16 that I didn't find the bodies, but we got convictions. There was only 2. We're still working on one of the bodies. The other one was cremated. Can't do anything about that.
Right.
But another one was discarded. So there's my record. I mean, it's just me. It was just me or me and Marcia. And now it's me and Tyler. So we're going to give her a run at it.
Yeah. I say we hopefully can make a trip over there and bring some closure.
A long trip.
It is a long trip.
Anyway, we'll come back next week because we got so much to do during the week.
Right.
You got a race coming up. So we damn sure want to have our stuff together, and I got to go through all these recordings. I mean, it's hours too, and I got to go through them all.
Yeah, and I think that'd be a good one to come back and really just maybe not a 2-hour, but obviously talk about Isaac, and I think we should go into that a little bit more detail. Without a doubt.
More detail. And then if y'all want to hear from the dad, y'all want to hear from the mom, hey, let us know. And if you do, guess what? They'll come on here. Who won't come on here? Isaac ain't going to come on here.
Right.
We know that ain't going to happen. But the mom and dad will. So anyway, guys, we appreciate you, whether you like us or not. Hey, good news is bad news is good news. What? Either one. Good news is bad news, bad news.
That's your Joko Java right there, man.
No news is good news.
There you go.
What is it? No news is good news. Bad news is good news too. I don't know what it is. Anyway, guys, we appreciate it. It's late. 2 hours is a little bit long, but we want to start from the beginning, get to this point. Now we're going to talk about Isaac.
Now we can go into detail on a little bit each situation, a little more.
And like or love,